It's episode 4 of the Sick Esports podcast, a weekly podcast about the business of esports and the esports business.
This week is February 24th, and we talk about layoffs in esports, as well as Savvy Gaming Group's continued shopping spree as they acquire yet another TO.
Yeah, esports orgs across the board are cutting weight so they can spend on big projects like the LCS and King Pro League.
And don't forget about RENNSPORT too, TJ.
You're right, the biggest project in esports. I'm Thomas TJ James, joined by Matthew Cubby Samuelson, and all of that is after this.
I gotta say, right now, I feel very lucky to have work in esports because that's not the case, unfortunately, for a lot of people in the space, as we have yet another show where we have to start with a very fun topic of a rather large business this time around, laying off everyone.
Yeah. No, we've talked about a lot of people that were endemic to esports, a lot of the people who run their entire business as esports, cutting huge percentages of their staff. Most of the major teams have done this. Wisdom Media, who are one of the biggest broadcasters in North America, let most of their marketing and community management team go just last week. And then, today, The Guard, who are operated by one of the biggest team owners. You know sports better than me. They're like a traditional sports organization. They own a ton of sports teams. And they decided that they no longer wanted to be in the esports business and, hit enter on a spreadsheet and fired what looks to be dozens of people. Their entire esports team is what's being written out.
Yeah, what TJ is referencing is the organization that owns Arsenal. They own the Guard, and Arsenal is it is a huge team.
I am familiar with Arsenal.
Yeah.
Also, I'm reading here the LA Rams.
So not a majority, but they have stake. But they mostly have majority in the Denver Nuggets as well.
What?
Yeah,
That's a made-up sports team. You're telling me they left esports and stayed in the Denver Nuggets?
Yeah, the Nuggets are great right now. They got Joker. It's he's
what?
Yeah.
What sport do the Nuggets play?
Basketball. They're a very good team in basketball.
Wow.
Yeah.
I need to stick to esports.
Yeah. So this is a big business, right? This is one where you can assume that they have money to burn because they're making a lot of money elsewhere. And the fact that they are calling esports quits is really bad news.
Yeah, not only did they lay off their entire esports division, all the people working there, but that also, of course, means that they are selling all their teams. So they have a lot of teams that were operating in games like Apex Legends, and they just dropped those teams. And then they also are the owner of 2 of the spots in the Activision Blizzard leagues, the Overwatch League and the Call of Duty League. So both of those teams have now been dropped as well, or are being sold off, is the rumor going around. I would be very surprised if that wasn't true, given that they just fired or dropped everyone else that they plan to operate the teams. This is via the Esports Observer, which is a subdivision of the Sports Business Journal. They did the initial reporting on this. And they say that they are going to sell both those teams as soon as they can, and they're going to continue to operate them until they can sell both those franchise slots.
Yeah. So overall, not just someone leaving esports or deciding that, this isn't the path for them, but someone with a sports background and a lot of funding. And that is honestly not a good sign moving forward, given that, how many organizations with sports backgrounds are invested in esports.
Yeah. There's a couple of different places to go here, obviously. The one that immediately came to mind was CLG, Counterlogic Gaming, one of the bigger, more storied teams in esports, owned by the Madison Square Garden Group. Golden Guardians, the LCS franchise partners. Also, major esports org at this point, owned by the Golden State Warriors operating group.
Yeah, FlyQuest was just bought out, or I guess bought into, by the group that owns the Florida Panthers, an NHL
and
team.
a whole lot of the other Overwatch League and Call of Duty League teams, which obviously we have less visibility on. We're a little League of Legends esports centric, but a whole lot of the other Overwatch League and Call of Duty teams are owned by NFL team owners because Blizzard explicitly went after them, because Blizzard explicitly was targeting people with those franchising offers who were outside of esports and trying to bring them in for various strategic reasons.
Yeah.
So there's I think some interesting questions to be asked about why they're pulling out. I think the more immediate worry for me is the kind of like mimetic layoffs that we are seeing in tech right now, where the second that smaller tech companies like Salesforce started making massive cuts, everyone felt they had license, had runway to make massive cuts to their workforce. So I do expect that we will see this wave continue. I guess that's the biggest question here. We've seen almost everyone in esports make reductions at this point. My question to you is, do you think the wave is crashing? Or do you think, it's still rolling and we're going to see some more massive cuts before too long?
It's curious because I think that gaming is actually starting to have a small resurgence in the general market, and I don't know how big of an impact that's going to have on esports, or if a lot of games and also just gaming in general feels like esports didn't strike the iron when it was hot. And there are other ways to promote their games than esports.
Yeah. I mean, the video games thing is interesting because I think in many ways the games market has never been stronger, right? And there is a quantifiable dip after quarantine ends where people were locked inside and people are now going outside, and therefore some of the numbers went down for a little bit. But by and large, the effect of quarantine was that a whole lot of people who wouldn't normally play video games were suddenly trapped inside and they played video games. So actually the total audience for gaming expanded, and it looks like it expanded permanently, would be my analysis, but that's a whole different podcast. But the esports side of it, I think you are right that a lot of the companies that were just burning money so that they had a foot in the door are now wondering if they need that foot in the door.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about the opposite end of the spectrum?
What would that be?
Savvy Gaming Group, which are the Saudi government fund, state-sponsored fund, that dropped some stupid $80 million for ESL Faceit Group that separately bought ESL DreamHack, which was combined under MTG Group, and they bought Faceit and combined them all into ESL Faceit Group, who are now this mega conglomerate super esports broadcaster, the biggest in the world. They spent that amount of money, what was that, 2-3 months ago?
It was last year for Faceit, at least.
Yeah, it was a crazy amount of money. Faceit was the smaller amount, but yeah, it was a crazy amount of money. They spent more money than they did on that, and I think it's actually a very smart buy. The Savvy Gaming Group just announced a massive chunk of investment in VSPO. If that name sounds unfamiliar, they were previously known as VSPN until earlier this month. I don't know what the O stands for, but I also don't really know what the N stands for, so who knows? They spent $265 million for a slice of the Chinese broadcaster VSPO. VSPO are best known as Tencent's esports arm, operating the King Pro League in China and the Peacekeeper Esports League. King Pro League is for Honor of Kings, which is the mobile MOBA, and Peacekeeper. In China, you can't operate PUBG Mobile because it's too violent, so they renamed it Peacekeeper Game for Peace, and it's exactly the same as PUBG, but it's like paintball. And they were allowed to operate that. So that's what they're best known for operating, is the Esports League for two of the biggest mobile games in the world. They make a lot of money. I have no surprise, given my background, worked for them 2 times. And I have to say, they were very pleasant to work with. One of the best run esports organizations I've ever worked with. This is a very sensible investment. Like if I were like, where do you spend money? I have $300 million right now. I want to spend money. I would say, hey, you should look at China, and there is no bigger name in Chinese esports than VSPN.
It's amazing, like how much power they have over there. Like over the games, like what's published. And also amazing, just the sheer difference in mobile games overseas compared to here.
Yeah. So VSPN, I would have told you, was owned and operated by Tencent. That was always my impression. When I was looking into the financials of this to figure out what was going on, I discovered that actually Tencent are just a majority investor, I think. I think they were started separately, and then Tencent gave them a stupid amount of money to operate with, as kind of an angel investor type situation. We will never know, because the reporting that would explain this is already sketchy because it's esports, and I don't speak Chinese. So without reading Mandarin, we will never know. But they, I know, operate some of the LPL broadcasts as well, the League of Legends Pro League in China. So they are just a huge cornerstone of that ecosystem, which makes it really fascinating to me that the Saudi government, essentially, for all of the accusations that get thrown at Tencent, where people very much think Tencent is an arm of the Chinese government, it's a little more complicated than they directly operate with the Chinese government. Tencent and the Chinese government are oftentimes, in fact, at odds. There's a lot of regulatory problems that Tencent encounters trying to operate video games in China, and they're trying to get around that by investing outside of China, which is why they currently own all video games. So there's like a lot going on there. The Saudi Gaming Group is the Saudi government. It is owned and operated by the Saudi government. It is part of their mission to make Saudi Arabia seem more attractive as like a tourism destination. They also invested a ton in WWE, I think, or they spent money to operate some shows in Saudi Arabia. So it's the same game plan. So it's very interesting to me that they are, as you talked about, being allowed access to VSPN or VSPO, being allowed that kind of ownership of the Chinese market.
That is something that's interesting to look at, but also this gives like Savvy Gaming Group like so much power over esports media too. Like when
they own like 20% of esports right now.
Yeah, it's huge. and like when you also think of like, some games, they don't even use third-party tournament organizers, right? They just like put on the shows themselves. Like when you take that into consideration as well, and then you look at all the TOs that Savvy Gaming Group now has their hand in, like that does feel like a monopoly in a sense, right? If you're not going to include like the game dev broadcasts on their own.
I mean, there are 3 types of esports broadcasts. There are game developers that broadcast their own games. There are scrappy startup broadcasts done by smaller studios. And there are broadcasts that are in some way owned by the Savvy Gaming Group. Those are the 3 kinds of broadcasts. Because you watch DreamHack in Dallas, Savvy Gaming Group. You watch Face It in London, Savvy Gaming Group. You watch the LPL, the KPL in China, Savvy Gaming Group. You watch RENNSPORT? Dude, they own RENNSPORT.
Oh my God. We figured it out. We cracked the case. Speaking of RENNSPORT, do we hop there next?
I thought we were saving that as a treat for the end. But...
honestly, it really is a treat for the end. I will say that is kind of like our cherry on top for ourselves today.
Oh yeah, that's a little teaser. We're getting better at podcasting. We're giving you a teaser. We've got more RENNSPORT news coming up.
Teaser content. At the moment, though, what we have coming up, actually, innovation of the chief variety. GameSquare, Complexity, Code Red Esports have announced
Yeah,
that.
this is the company that owns the agency I'm assigned to as a broadcaster. So
Oh,
when I work as a broadcaster, I work with Code Red Esports. And their parent company is GameSquare. And do you want to know when I learned this?
when it was announced.
Yesterday, when I read this news story.
Yeah, that's quiet. You get your news through Twitter and esports. Come on.
So tell them about who now owns my agency.
Ninja, who is the chief innovation officer. So when TJ comes into the podcast today and says, "Hey, I've got an idea to revolutionize how we podcast," and introduces a new tool that we're using, is that actually Ninja?
True.
Did you have to run it by Ninja?
He is my chief innovation officer.
Did he tell you to use the Adobe
software.
podcast platform?
Shoutouts to that's not true. I'm gonna bleep their name. They charge so much money. Nobody likes it. I'm gonna use editing software to cut out the word every time.
I still
you
have
say
a student
Adobe.
account for a reason. We'll put it that way.
Incredible. We are open to sponsorship, is what I would say to Adobe.
Savvy Gaming Group, we are available.
And you know what, RENNSPORT? If you want commentators,
all I require is I get to sit in the car.
That's true.
Yeah.
The chief innovation officer of GameSquare, who owned both Code Red Esports, my agency, and Complexity, one of the bigger esports teams, is now the former Fortnite streamer Ninja. And this is actually very exciting to me because I do not know what's going on with our favorite blue-haired Jimmy Fallon guest. There was a brief period where Ninja was everywhere. You've probably seen him, bright blue hair, wears like a ninja sweatband headband thing.
Yeah, he's like in Fortnite.
Yeah, he's in the video game Fortnite. Although to be fair, everyone's in the video game Fortnite now, but Ninja is also in the video game Fortnite. He was in the Ryan Reynolds movie where he's in a video game. Free Guy?
Yeah, Free Guy.
He was in that movie. And now he is, and I need you to click into this article and tell me what's going on in that photograph that they published.
Oh boy.
I will describe it for anyone at home. There are 4 people in this photograph. There's like 2 normal business dudes standing on the outside of this grouping of people in front of a sofa.
That's not a normal business dude. You know who's got their hand on the ball? That's not Ninja.
We're getting there. And then the oldest man I have ever seen.
Yeah. Jerry Jones.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He owns the Dallas Cowboys.
Mm-hmm. Is handing a football to Ninja.
Jerry Jones he's quite something.
Yeah, I would say he's winning over the room.
He's doing his best. I just distracted TJ by sending a link. You know what this link is, TJ? Because you aren't educated on American sports, I'm going to have to educate you in the way that Americans need to be educated, and that is the South Park link of them making fun of Jerry Jones. As they do with most everyone, but you know.
Well, so Mr. Tyler Ninja Blevins has joined as Chief Innovation Officer. And what's interesting here is that they focus very much on his ability to connect with youth culture. And that's fascinating to me. It's a weird move from Ninja, who is mostly known for earning $1 million from streaming for a couple of months.
Yeah, streaming, yeah.
And he's kind of only known as a streamer. He had a long history as a very controversial streamer, and then right around the launch of Fortnite, he cleaned up his act, got Nickelodeon clean, and became the perfect Fortnite streamer for the moment.
Yeah.
The perfect Fortnite streamer to leave your kids watching. And then after running the world for a couple of months, he got a huge check from Microsoft. They were trying to launch their own streaming service. He got a huge check from them, innovated in the ways that you can earn money as a streamer. And then kind of hasn't ever had the same influence since. They write that he will launch the GameSquare incubator called Ninja Labs, where he will help the company ideate and develop first-of-its-kind concepts and products directly focused on connecting with youth culture by seeking out unique business opportunities, developing new IPs, consumer products, and more. Which is a set of words in order, and I do not know what he's doing.
I don't either. I'm gonna be real. I have no idea. But good for him. I think the thing that's like really like this boils down to is like these streamers are continuously looking for more ways to make income, right? And I really can't blame them because streaming as income is tough. Like you always have to be live if you want to keep up your stream, right? If you aren't live, you're losing out on a lot of income and a lot of the ability to snowball. So the fact these guys want to add to their portfolio, I mean, more power to them, right?
He was streaming to TikTok the other day, which is like the first time I've ever seen a streamer I recognize live on TikTok, which does have a live streaming feature.
Yep.
Which is trying to promote content. He had like a couple million people watching him play Fortnite, and it was just his normal stream, but rearranged for the vertical aspect ratio.
Interesting.
Yeah. That's innovation, baby.
Get those Zoomers.
Yeah, connecting with the youth. I do think Ninja has demonstrated a capacity to connect with young people. The company GameSquare doesn't really make anything. It's kind of a holding company. So I'm a little confused as to what exactly he's running. They called it an incubator. Does he have money that he's handing out? It's a little unclear.
That's actually that's like a good question because I think a lot of the times like in gaming, like one of my favorite YouTubers actually just started an indie studio, Video Game Donkey, and they're like helping get games off the ground. And a lot of it is like he has like some input on like what they want to work with, but that's really about it.
Yeah, that's a very traditional publisher. He owns and operates a games publisher.
Right. Incubator though is like, I mean, if you're doing an incubator well, in my opinion, it's everyone is in the same location because that's the value of an incubator, right? You have like 20 companies starting to like trying to get off the ground, and guess what? Like, if you need a lawyer in the incubator,
I feel like
there might be a lawyer
missing for me though. Here's what's missing for me though. When you launch an incubator or a fund, normally you talk about how much money you've raised, right?
Yeah. Oh, that's true. Well, I mean, he's shaking hands with Jerry Jones, so money's not a problem.
Right. That's my point, though, is that surely the version of this, if he's launching a fund, is Tyler Blevins has launched a $40 million fund, right? And we don't get that in any of these press releases. So.
Well, that's because they hired him to be a face for promotion.
Yeah, that's kind of the vibe I'm getting.
Yeah, and I mean, I hope that like he has like some input. Like I mean, the guy's smart enough to be successful and like a way in gaming that's never been done before. And I think some of it was the right place at the right time, but still, I mean, that's like he was the guy,
He was the guy in Free Guy, the Ryan Reynolds movie.
Yeah, he was the guy on Jimmy Fallon.
True. All right. I don't know what I hope. I hope he's getting paid. I hope he's getting paid what he's worth.
Yeah, that's
I hope he doesn't mess with that by agency. That's or maybe he'll come and give us tips. Let's talk about Rainbow Six. Rainbow Six, we talked about a couple of weeks ago. Their revenue split, we speculated, we wondered what was going on with their split between teams and publishers, how much money was going to publishers from all the in-game items they're selling. Apparently not enough, is the word on the street. Would you like to read this list of teams that have now dropped the Rainbow Six rosters?
Yeah, as R6, they have now lost Furia, Astralis, TSM, and Beastcoast. There was a lack of support from the game dev that was cited as why we have these teams leaving.
Yeah, that specifically came from Furia, who are a very popular Latin American organization, Brazilian to be specific. Astralis were much more diplomatic, but also it seemed to be the same energy. And TSM had a lot of stuff going on, as TSM always does. So one thing is clear though, and I think this really lines up with what we were talking about earlier. Teams are beginning to cut divisions that are not making money. And we're seeing that here in Rainbow Six Esports.
Yeah.
Apex Legends also had a number of high-profile organizations drop out of their league. They're actually struggling to fill spots in their pro league right now in Apex Legends.
Yep.
And I was thinking about this. I think we're going to see, and this is true across a lot of entertainment industries, I think we're going to see a shift into two models. Really big bets on things that they think are going to work, things that are making money, things like the LCS.
Yep.
And nobody going anywhere else.
It's curious because like I'm really interested to see what happens with esports moving forward, and like how many viable esports titles can we have like under the FPS umbrella? Because that's something that for me is going to be really interesting moving forward. It's just like because that's unexplored territory when it comes to sports, right? Like we are just now exploring in sports having a secondary golf league with Live Golf.
I was going to say the XFL, but yes.
Yeah, the XFL as well, right?
Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's XFL.
Yeah. So, like, these are, like, that's unexplored territory, right? That esports is going to delve into with, like, all right, can we get COD, CSGO, Valorant, all in FPSs? How many more titles can we fit under this where, like, people actually care? Like, can be financially supported and sound for all? Like, I think that in a way is always going to be a limiting factor on esports. And I love R6 as a game, but yeah, like spectating it, it's not a great spectator client for tournaments.
And I think their viewership just isn't there.
Yeah.
Their viewership isn't there to support a game of the scale that they want. They want to have pro leagues in multiple regions. They want to have LAN finals. And you need to be pulling Counter-Strike numbers for that. You need millions of viewers, and they do not have millions of viewers.
Yep.
And that means that they need to be subsidized, and that still might be worth it for Ubisoft. You know, Ubisoft maybe makes it on margin, but they are trying instead to make money from it, it seems. And those in-game item sales, the money is not going to the teams as much as the teams want, and therefore teams are pulling out. So we'll see if maybe there's a reevaluation in these smaller games. Maybe the deal needs to get a lot better for esports organizations. We're going to see publishers put more money towards supporting esports organizations in their games. Or maybe we are going to see, as you were dropping a little bit of a segue, far fewer entries into the esports space. Do you want to complete the segue now?
Yeah. Because we have rents. No, I'm kidding. That's for later. No, so speaking of viewership, some things are going well. One of those things would be the VCT lock-in. So this is Riot's Valorant opening event for the season. Important that Riot, they changed their global schedule for League of Legends and everything in order to support Valorant and for Riot to not compete with themselves cross titles. So this would be like they have something similar for League in the lock-in event or the opening event. And they saw the largest viewership on co-stream and watch parties because they really opened up the book for who could watch party.
So this is kind of a question for me.
Okay.
We had this conversation last week when we were talking about the Call of Duty major. We were talking about, is it worth having all your viewership in co-streams rather than in your main broadcast product?
Right.
And we obviously we're coming to it from the side of people who are paid to be on that broadcast product, so we are a little biased, but I generally think that if you're in the entertainment business, you're in the entertainment business, and you shouldn't have other people operating your product for you, because you lose control of your brand, you lose control of the way the public sees your league, you lose control of the ability to curate the next generation of your league. I'm not opposed to co-streaming. I'm not opposed to having something like the Manning Cast or Scump co-streaming the tournament, but I think if you are operating a broadcast product that is less popular than some 20-year-old pro gamer in their bedroom watching the games, You are failing to operate a compelling broadcast product, and that should be a 9-alarm fire. That should be you sitting in the middle of your next generation esports studio going, oh my god, we're screwing this up. We are not delivering the product that our audience wants. And what I saw this weekend as I was getting ready was as I was getting ready for some work, I pulled up Twitch to put on my second monitor, and I was looking at the VCT lock-in, which is a huge event for esports for that game. And I was looking at the ESL CSGO Pro League, which is not really a big event. It's, they're doing a little bit of a season-end tournament, but it's like solidly in the tier 2 of events. There's like a big major coming up, but it's not that. And I was like, whoa, the ESL CSGO Pro League has more viewership for like a day of quarterfinals group stage stuff than the VCT lock-in by a really significant margin. And then I clicked in and I went, oh, that's not true. It's just that everyone who would be watching the Valorant mainstream is instead watching one of the co-streamers. They're watching a former pro player watch the game rather than watching the main broadcast product.
I will say, not ideal. I agree with our main point that, we've already kind of made. But also, I will say that if there's any time to open up the book to any and all co-streamers, it is your kickoff event for your game and your first competitive season with partnering with like orgs and leagues.
Can you expand on that? Why do you think it's different?
You're trying to kick off the league. You're getting as many eyeballs on it as you can with an event that is less serious than what will be the main season.
So just get people in the door and sell them on the main product later?
Yeah. Expose as many people as you can to the game in a way that they enjoy. So, like, if they enjoy watching their favorite streamer, they're going to enjoy watching your game.
So, and we saw them kind of try to do this in the LCS, and it didn't really work, right? There was this kind of design of a funnel system where they could take people off the co-streams onto the main broadcast product. And I don't think we saw really significant movement there. Do you think they should be trying to design a system like that?
I think in the long haul, you want your main broadcast, obviously, to be as big as possible, right? It gives you the most control. I'm not sure exactly what you mean by that system, though.
Well, with the LCS rules this year, they had, during the opening weeks, everyone can co-stream, and then only a certain number of people can co-stream, and then as we get later in the season, the only broadcast of the tournament is going to be the main broadcast. And that, to me, is obviously designed, I don't know this from Riot, but to me that seems obviously designed to get people, like you say, to watch the opening day on their co-stream, to be like, oh man, this is a really fun broadcast. I am really invested in these player storylines as the season goes on. Now the only way I can watch it is the main feed, and I'm going to go tune into that.
Yeah. I think that's a good formula, actually.
I think, critically, if the LCS viewership numbers have not been decided for the season. So far, they are not significantly better than they were last season, and by and large, what we are seeing is when co-streaming is allowed, people are tuning into the co-streams, and when co-streaming is not allowed, they are not moving over to the main broadcast.
Yeah.
And you would need a data science degree to really validate that thesis, but at an eyeball check, that's what I'm seeing. So,
yeah.
It reminds me a lot. We're having this conversation. It reminds me a lot of local sports broadcasts. Where you have the radio broadcast, the TV broadcast that everyone loves, that is for the local team.
Yeah.
And nobody likes when you go to the ESPN feed. It's kind of what's happening.
I mean, in a sense, I just think that this is where gaming is really different. The way that gaming is consumed, people want it to be from people they enjoy, from their own streams, right? They don't enjoy the main broadcast as much.
I will push back on that because the ESL CSGO Pro League also has co-streaming. I don't know how formalized it is. I know they attempted to formalize it some time ago, but Counter-Strike has always been the Wild West. For a very long time, you could just get into a major tournament, the World Finals, and you could just stream it on your own channel, and there was nothing anybody could do about it because it was an open client. And there was co-streaming by, Tarek. Tarek is the biggest co-streamer of this VCC lock-in. He's a Counter-Strike streamer. He comes from that environment. He's doing that. Tarek's friends, the people that grew up with him in the Counter-Strike scene, are streaming and co-streaming the Counter-Strike event at least as effectively, and their viewership is far smaller, not only statistically, but proportionally to the ESL CSGO Pro League main feed, which is drawing the vast majority of Counter-Strike viewership. And I would put forward that what you can take from that is that the ESL Counter-Strike broadcast is more effectively serving its audience.
Yeah.
And it is...
So you're just saying that like other games, like their main broadcasts are not doing that as successfully?
Yeah, well, I think, and this is my thesis based... God, I'm just so sick still.
Yeah, sick esports.
I have to leave that in now. And this is my opinion based both on the statistics, but also on my opinion of the broadcast. I think that the VCT streams, the Valorant broadcast product they are putting on, is not a good broadcast product. And they are suffering because of it, and they are patching that over with the co-streams. And you can see how they're doing this, because if you look at the numbers for the tournament are great. They had a ton of viewers. And it's only when you look in and you go, actually, none of these people were watching your main expensive show, that it starts to be very troubling.
Why
and if I
do you
were
think that
Riot
is?
Games... Sorry?
Like, do you think they're not putting the right people on the show? Do you think the show just wasn't appealing products? I haven't seen the show, so I don't know.
I think that I'm never going to say that they're putting the wrong people on the show, because I think any show can succeed with any talent, as long as... What I would say, and I think this is the case for a couple of different major broadcast products right now, this isn't a Riot or VCT exclusive problem. I think that the show is not cohesively aligned with the people they have on. They are not producing a product that has a unique or unified creative vision. They are not producing a product that feels like a product created for a purpose.
Okay.
And when you are watching a sports broadcast, you watch for one of two reasons. You're either watching because it is entertainment, or you're watching because it is providing you value. And most broadcasts do some combination of that. They make the game easier to watch. They give you information, analysis about the game in some way that makes it a better viewing experience, or they have entertaining personalities on and you're having a good time watching. And like I said, most broadcast products do both these things, and different viewers tune in for some percentage of those reasons. What I see is that their main broadcast is not very entertaining. They have a very kind of locked down atmosphere. They don't have their commentators letting loose, which is fine. Riot Games loves their professional ESPN style broadcast. But that means that someone like Tarek is killing them there, because Tarek is just goofing off on his own stream. He's a very popular streamer.
Right.
And they're not offering a ton of value. They're not doing a very good job telling stories about the players, telling stories about the games. And someone like Tarek, who is a professional player, can offer a ton of value.
Yeah.
So when I look at the two reasons that people might tune into the VCT stream, they are being outdone by a dude in his bedroom. And that's why I think their viewership is worse.
So, like, for me, that's one where it's like, there's actually kind of some tough decisions being made right now, like for game devs, because like if you are Tarek, like it actually isn't worth for you to go on the main show.
Yeah, they could not pay him enough money, because right now he owns and operates the show. He gets all of the ad revenue from the majority of the viewership of the VCT when he presses the run ad button or sells a sponsorship against his stream.
And that's really tough, because like in a sense, like you are setting yourself up to fail or like be beaten out, right? If you are Riot with VCT. And I know like that's something that like they're having an issue with, like not just in Valorant, but like also like League, right? Is like some of these players,
that's why you
they don't
pull
want to
back on when they can co-stream, right? That's why you invent new rules.
Yeah. Like,
but
they help you so much. So again, I get it does come back down to like your main broadcast needs to be better, right?
Yeah. Like my note here is this: like people in some ways, this is very good for Riot. They obviously have a popular product. People want to watch VCT, right?
Yeah.
The thing that I would say is, you go, okay, the audience is there, but we need to triage this. We need to rebuild the broadcast. We need to figure out why we're not connecting.
Yeah. That part adds up. I haven't seen the broadcast. Like I can't comment on that, right? But
I mean, it's
tough.
They've got a lot of, and I say this about a lot of Riot broadcasts. They have the best people in the world working on that show. They have the best technology on that show, and it is not coming together. And that is both very bad and also very good, because it means that you have all the pieces.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know. It's one where because I haven't seen the show, I can't really I don't really know what I can add, but
you can segue us to the next segment.
Ooh, the request from TJ. Oh yeah, there was a fun follow-up, I guess, on some banner that we talked about, TJ, when it came to Kassad, as he promised 1K to the team that eliminates evil geniuses at a qualifier.
That is true. This is the Evil Geniuses Counter-Strike team. One of their executives mouthed off at the Counter-Strike casters. The executive felt that the Counter-Strike casters weren't giving their team enough credit. The Counter-Strike casters said they would pay $1,000 to whatever team eliminated Evil Geniuses from the qualifiers for the next major tournament. They have now paid that bounty.
It's pretty funny.
Yeah, it is really funny because, you know what? The analysts said that Evil Geniuses weren't a top-tier team. They staked their reputation on it. Evil Geniuses then got eliminated by a group of nobodies from the major tournament they were trying to qualify for. So, it is a good story either way. Either Evil Geniuses prove everybody wrong and they come in with a chip on their shoulder, or one of the biggest teams in esports is dropping the ball and falling.
Yeah.
Would you like to skim that article? Because there's also a player who was going to be recruited to Evil Geniuses. Do you want to get into that?
Yeah. So they had a 15-man roster at one point.
Yeah.
Now they have promoted a couple, Wiz and Hexed. It's interesting because they actually have used the same thing in LCS and League of Legends, and it really saved EG a lot of money. Like they found two of the best prospects that have been found. So it's interesting to see them doing the same in CSGO. Anyway.
One of the players they approached, Nafly, now known as Naf, one of the long-standing best players in North America, and they approached him and were like, hey, do you want to build a team with us? And the pull quote from that is, this is Nafly explaining why he decided not to work with them. Quote, me talking to them for about an hour changed my mind. I was like, Liquid is light years ahead of this organization, and I'd be an idiot to go join this team.
Woo!
So talk about a meeting going poorly. EG, in the course of an hour, convinced him to re-sign with Liquid.
My favorite one is, I talked to them for an hour, and I was like, I'm not joining this disaster.
I think you have to read the next sentence as well.
I came back to Liquid and I was like, I'm down to make things work. Let's talk about it and let's get things going.
Because he was like, I kind of maybe want a new team. I kind of maybe want to leave Liquid. He talks to them for an hour. He goes back to Liquid and he says, let's figure it out, dude.
Wow. I mean, the goal of a meeting is to make sure that you get a decision by the end. That's not the decision EG was hoping for.
True. Hey, you know what? Maybe they were just doing Liquid a solid.
Hey, Liquid jokes.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot analytical you can pull from this. Maybe whoever he met with was just having a bad day. Maybe their Counter-Strike division really is that poorly organized. It certainly doesn't seem like they're handling Counter-Strike very well, but Evil Geniuses maybe something to keep an eye on, and if we get more people speaking out about the conditions on that team, it'll be validating for Nafly, certainly.
I will say, as a cover caster, if you have a cover caster in the space that's putting 1K on your team that's not going to make qualifiers, I'm there's probably some things going on behind the scenes that aren't great there. That there's a lot of confidence in that bounty.
Yeah, I've been there. Because the thing that's happening that I've been there as a color caster is you're watching this incredibly wealthy organization come in and just drop the ball and really screw things up because they have enough money to kind of really, when you're spending a lot of money as a team, you like warp the world around you, and everyone like wants to work with you because you have the money. And so it's very frustrating to watch somebody come in and kind of warp the scene around them and obviously not be doing a good job. So I've like been there where I've been like, these people suck, and I wish I could like prove that. I have never had $1,000 to put a bounty on a team. I have never. Clearly, Counter-Strike color casters get paid a hell of a lot better than mobile esports color casters. Is what I learned from the whole saga.
Yeah, no, for real. It's I mean, honestly, badass move though by
Yeah,
Kasad.
shoutouts to Kasad. Have you seen a photo of Kasad? Do you know what he looks like?
Yeah, I mean, it's in the article.
He's so like, I don't know. He's intimidating. He's a huge dude.
Good for him.
That looks like a dude who could put a bounty on you.
Good for him.
Do you want to do the business footnote and then wrap things up with RENNSPORT?
Oh, I mean, we got to save the best for last.
All right. This is kind of juicy to me, but this is juicy to me in like, because I'm a turbo nerd.
Oh, turbo nerd. Okay.
Yeah. So the way that the majors are supposed to work, the way that the events in the Call of Duty major circuit are supposed to work, is that every event happens at a different team's homestand. So everyone has a stadium, and you go to New York, and the NYXL, which is the parent organization of the New York Subliners, which is the Call of Duty team, operate the tournament, and all the New York fans come and root for the Subliners and boo the away teams, and it like replicates the sporting experience. You sell tickets. That's the promise of both the Activision Blizzard leagues. There has been some ongoing drama where the NYXL, the parent organization, have been like, we cannot afford to operate this event in New York. It just doesn't make financial sense. Maybe says something about the CDL. Because you can fill a room in New York. Like, there are a lot of people in New York. You can fill a room in New York with pretty much anything. So it's very interesting that they don't feel they can operate the event. Call of Duty League says, no problem, we'll run it out of a studio in Columbus, Ohio, with no live audience.
Oh, yeah.
And all of the fans are like, what? No live audience? For the fourth major, which is going to be like the most exciting one because it'll be the last one of the year. Like, what's going on there? Second, like Columbus, Ohio, there's no teams there. What a random place to hold a major. But I know the truth. You know what's in Columbus, Ohio?
Esports Engine Studio.
Esports Engine, who are they are a whole bunch of former MLG employees, and MLG, of course, was the company that Activision Blizzard bought to operate the Call of Duty and Overwatch leagues. And after they founded the Call of Duty and Overwatch League, a whole bunch of the higher-ups and producers at MLG left and founded a new studio called Esports Engine that combined with NGE in LA. They run Twitch Rivals. They run a lot of the events for Call of Duty League. And their biggest studio is in Columbus, Ohio. A truly random place to have a studio, and a truly random place to hold a Call of Duty major. Crazy how they happen to be the same place, isn't it?
Yeah. And crazy that no people can show up to that one either.
I'm a little surprised by that because I feel like you could get grandstands into. They have like a giant warehouse there. I feel like you could get like some seating in there.
It does suck right now too because this we kind of talked about on this show. Like COD actually has some momentum at the moment. Like the current COD game, like the pros find fun. They got out of YouTube jail, so they can now actually be on Twitch and like be a relevant esports in terms of viewership. And there's a lot of momentum right now in COD, and then COD
Call of Duty is going to be on the Nintendo Switch.
Yeah, I mean honestly that's probably. I think there are a lot of people that buy Nintendo Switch to play COD on it, so they're really serving that audience.
This was part of the we talked about it. There's an ongoing like regulatory thing. Activision Blizzard is going to be bought by Microsoft. If Microsoft can convince people that they're not going to then own video games, Sony has decided that the most effective way to block this deal is to tell all of the regulators that Microsoft will own Call of Duty, and that will give them a monopoly. Yeah. And so Microsoft is desperately making a deal with anyone they can to prove that they don't want to monopolize Call of Duty, and they are trying to talk to Sony, and they put Call of Duty on the Nintendo Switch. They put Call of Duty on the NVIDIA G-Sync platforms.
Yeah.
So you could now...
Now, what I gotta say,
Haha.
it feels like Microsoft is trying to savvy esports group gaming. You know, just buy it all.
Yeah, man.
Get it all in the portfolio.
Well, they don't really have an esport, do they? They have Halo.
They have a lot of games and a lot of things that they own.
But they have Halo, which isn't really doing it. Halo also operated by Esports Engine, but they have Halo, which isn't really doing numbers right now. There's Call of Duty, which they would own. Call of Duty and Overwatch, which they would own if they can convince all of the regulators around the world. Recently, it came out that Chinese regulators are also looking into the deal, which is hysterical. They're like, every regulator in the world is going to block this deal. But they don't really own a lot of esports, so yeah. Maybe they need the purchase.
Daddy Bill Gates needs whatever he can get. That's what's going on.
Maybe
here.
Starfield, the new Bethesda game, will be an esport.
Oh no!
You know what I think would do really
that.
well? Forza esports. Because, cars, car racing, digital
RENNSPORT
car
isn't
racing.
doing that well.
Oh, RENNSPORT. Wonder what's up with that game, Covey.
Yeah. What's up with RENNSPORT here as we get to end on our favorite topic of the day? We saved the best for last.
Okay, I need to set the scene for you.
Oh, scene?
It's this weekend. It's like 8 a.m. I wake up. I'm like sick, as throughout this podcast I've had to mute myself, blow my nose. I'm doing better, but I'm like a little sick.
Yeah.
I'm like, if only there was some kind of entertainment product I could be watching. Kind of as I wake up, go through my morning routine. If only I could just like have something on my phone in the room. And I was like thinking about it. I was like standing up, and then I like a bolt of electricity. It surged through me. RENNSPORT is live right now. ESL R1 from ESL Katowice. That's happening right now. And I'm missing it. And so I raced over to my computer and I brought it up, and the #1 sim racing league is live. The esports league we do not understand. The ESL is putting so much money into this.
And you could instantly tell they're putting in so much money because the production value.
Oh my god!
It's kind of insane. It's wild.
They have an e-racing coliseum. It's like this. It's the rooms they filmed The Mandalorian in. There's like big circular LED rooms. They have like one of those, but it's full of people racing video cars.
And you know what happens when those cars hit each other?
I actually do know this. Nothing.
The casters get really excited, and the cars take no damage in the game.
The damage model isn't in the game yet.
Yeah.
Is what one of the commentators said. So when the cars crash into each other, they just bounce off each other.
Yeah. It's 100% my favorite thing about watching RENNSPORT so far.
Oh,
there's like a crash, and there was like just two cars like taking no damage, like spinning out and like hurting each other. And they're like, oh, the association's for sure gonna take a look at that. It's like they have like the F1 association, like watching how these guys race too. Because like there are fouls and stuff, right? Oh my god,
it's the weirdest thing. So if you haven't followed, sorry, we're kind of, this is an ongoing story. If you haven't followed the long arc of RENNSPORT on our podcast, RENNSPORT is a new sim racing game that ESL seems to own some part of.
And there's a lot of money being thrown around by like Porsche, like car brands. Yeah. Like car brands are buying into this.
Yeah, so there's like there's some deal with ESL, and I don't know which way the money's going, but I feel like ESL has to own some
There's
part
money
of this
going
project.
Places, we know that.
Because ESL is so invested in making it feel like Formula 1. They are racing so seriously like they're real cars and producing it so seriously like they're real cars. And it's very bewildering to me and us because there has never been an audience for sim racing. During lockdown, there were a couple of times where like Formula 1 did events in sim racers. and people watched those, but that was because they couldn't watch Formula One, and the Formula One drivers were instead doing another thing, and they were watching it because it was a replacement for Formula One, not because they were inherently excited about video game cars. So they held this event. I will give them credit. Did you look at this? Did you look at the viewership numbers?
No. They did well?
Give me a guess.
50K.
Average concurrent viewers.
Oh, average 40.
40?
Yeah.
40.
Yeah.
4,000.
Oh.
That's not bad.
Well, I mean,
it's very bad. Don't get me wrong. They spent maybe millions of dollars, certainly hundreds of thousands of dollars on this event, and they only had 4,700 average concurrent viewers, which is nothing. They are not making money. They are losing an incredible amount of money on this.
I mean, they probably haven't even paid for like the Hunger Games Coliseum spawn they have that like set up like everyone's like in a circle.
That pays for like 2 casters. 1 caster, actually. Maybe.
That paid for the coffee.
Yeah, it's not like they are not making. But what's unclear is who's losing money. We don't know who's losing money on this.
That really is the best part of RENNSPORT so far. We don't know what the hell is going on.
Maybe ESL are getting paid a crazy amount of money by RENNSPORT or Porsche or somebody to run this event. Maybe ESL have decided that this is the future of esports and they're spending $1 million to lose it all. Who knows what's going on? But somebody is losing like $1 million on this product. You had a question earlier where you were like, there are these different manufacturers involved.
Yeah.
How do they differentiate? Because, of course, a huge part of traditional car racing is that all of the different teams build their own cars, and so they're all like different, and it's kind of like group science fairy. Could you read this excerpt I took from the live chat?
Yeah. Please nerf the Audis today. Will be good to see if the Audi performance was just better suited to Spa. Maybe another manufacturer is better here. Hopefully the Mercedes this time. Because, of course, in F1, like, you have to build a unique car from scratch. And a big part of F1 is actually, like, your car and, like, the build. Yeah. And, like, there have been deals in F1 made before where, like, you can actually pay another team for blueprints to use on your own car. And those sell, like, those are a lot of money. And also, like, because there are feeder teams in there, so, like, teams like Mercedes has, like, 2 teams, right? So, like, the lesser Mercedes teams, like, sometimes, like, they can help just prep drivers or parts, like, for the big one. And there's, like, good relations there. It's kind of wild. Yeah, none of this is happening in a video game. It's just
the Audis, someone needs to log on and change the Audi's top speed from, like, 144 to 143 just to make it a little more fair for everyone else.
I think so. I think that's the answer for sure. And it's funny because I don't think Audi even competes in F1. So, you know, good for Audi. They can win the fake F1.
The game looks really pretty. I feel like we're talking a lot. The event was really well produced. Their like Coliseum of racing drivers was bewildering, but it looked really nice. The game looks cool. Really nice.
Yeah.
The game looks like stunningly photorealistic sometimes. Some of those like big overhead shots, stunningly photorealistic.
Yeah, but it's not real racing, so.
No, which is kind of the problem. Like,
you know what they should do? They should just like bring in like an F1 driver and everyone like races against him.
But that's a gimmick. It's not a sport. Like, I would watch that video,
it is a gimmick, but also
it's a gimmick, not a sport.
A, that'd be great promo. B, the F1 drivers are actually in driving simulators like a ton, so they're really good.
No, I mean, I would watch that video 100%.
Yeah,
but the reason I would watch that video is because I know that one of those drivers drives really fast cars and therefore has unique human experience.
The other ones don't.
But like the value being brought to that video is the guy who drives an F1 car makes me want to watch those fake cars. And this is the same problem I was having with FIFA a while ago. The racing starts in their video game and they're commentating it like the cars are real, but they're not.
They can't even take damage.
Right. There's literally no stakes. There's just also just a few, I don't know, this goes in the category of TJ critiques people's production. Just a few weird production decisions. They were interviewing people while they were racing. I don't know what was going on there, but
it's tough.
These people are like driving for hundreds of thousands of dollars, and then somebody walks up with a microphone. They're like, "So how's it going?" And the guy's like, it's going well. I'm kind of trying to focus here.
Oh, man. Tough times, honestly.
They also kept doing this thing where they have this photorealistic game, and they were only showing it from two perspectives, and one of them was the POV of the driver, which was inside of the car. Normally, racing video games, the camera is behind the car and slightly above it, which lets you see the whole car, and it makes it a little bit easier to drive.
Yep.
All these players are driving from inside the car, so it's a full simulator, which makes sense because that's how, when people are playing simulators, that's how they play them for fun, because the fun is simulating driving a real car. Doesn't make sense from a how do I be the best at this video game perspective. So, I don't know. And then the other thing they were doing is they were only cutting from inside of the cars, which isn't the best way to watch a race because you don't know who's in front or behind, to over the shoulder of the players as they played the game. So you could only see the esport that was being played on the monitor that was in the video shot of the entire room over the shoulder of the player, which is a very weird way to spectate the game.
I cannot compute. I just do not get it.
Yeah. Little bewildering, RENNSPORT. So who do you think is going to win this season?
The Audis, they're way too OP. We need a software engineer to nerf it now.
Someone nerf the Audis. All right. I think that's all for us. Give us a quote from RENNSPORT.
Oh my god, that was a huge accident. Let's see if that car is going to be okay.
You can find new episodes each week at sickesports.com with a K, as well as the podcast provider of your choice by searching Sick Esports Podcast. You can find Cubby Matthew Samuelson at CubbyXX on Twitter. Is that still the best place to reach you? Are you really sticking to Twitter?
Yeah, it is.
Wow.
I'm a corporate stooge.
You can find me at esportstj.com. Stay safe, be kind to yourself, get paid what you're worth.